Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where an actual statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and this college basketball episode covers select game schedules we played on Saturday, December 10th, 2022. Get you in here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for a primer, what we're about here, show goals, and community rules. As always, remember there are no locks and gambling. So what Sideline provides are loves, likes, and leans. It is A, B, and C grades. To indicate its confidence level with respect to scaling wagers, we're only covering a subset of today's games in this episode. So for the full slate of picks, check out the Google Sheet linked in the show description. We're on the website homepage, but as always, take what you like and leave the rest. And again, as always, if you have questions about these or other games, the best place to get those answered is in our Discord chat, which can be accessed through Patreon. Link is in the ticker. Lastly, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as we'd like to see will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, we're recording again before the Friday games. Yesterday, I talked about how every day this week we've been 500, and I didn't know how Thursday would go. And sure enough, we finished 500. Yeah. Again. So I don't know how to break the spell of that.
I don't either. It's kind of maddening. I mean, it was just nuts last night. I think we even had a push last night too, so it could have gone either way. But this is the first time in a while that the subset part of your opening spiel is actually right.
Well, and it's like, yeah. I mean, I don't think we covered every game on Friday, but we left at like 2, But now it's like this is a small subset, right? There are a lot of games here on Saturday, so we're going to get right to it. Before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, movie, or college football content that this channel provides. I've already mentioned that Patreon, but check it out if you haven't yet. Lots of great benefits to be found there above and beyond what we do here. Membership starts at just $3 per month, gets you the plays of the day, and then you can go beyond that and get all sorts of fun benefits that I'm offering. That's patreon.com/pickswiththeprofessor. But even if you're not there, we're thrilled to have you here. We'll get to it here. All lines courtesy of BetOnline. Setup link in the show description and current as the time of this recording on late Friday afternoon. Jake, I don't even know how many A plays there are. 30-ish, 40. There's a lot of A grade plays according to the model. They're hitting 40. I mean, at about a 54 to 55% somewhere in that ballpark clip on the season. The one that you told me a handful that you liked, I told you a handful that I liked, and the one that we aligned on that we both brought up, the A-plus play of the day, the game that's going to count to both of our records here, Portland State laying 2 at Cal Poly. Sideline says this should be Portland State minus 5.3 on the road. Both of these teams have overperformed expectations, so it kind of like as I'm always saying, it's not like there's really a bias one way or the other. I just think Portland State is a much better team than Cal Poly here. This actually open at a pick'em. So, again, all the plugs I can make here, like I always tell people, the best pitch I can make to join the Patreon is just what happens. It's nothing more than that. It's just the fact that if you had the early projections, you got this at a pick'em because you knew that was a horribly priced line. If you're at the $10 level, we already posted this out. You're already seeing this early. You're getting a -2. I have no idea where it's going to be overnight and in the morning. I have to assume it's going to go up because this line is really short, in my opinion. I think Portland State can go on the road here and get the win, probably pretty convincingly. Jake, why is this such a good play in your mind?
Yeah, first off, Portland State is a very decent team. Their offense and defense are really close to average, which is good when you're at a very small conference that they are. They play at a fun pace, very fast, actually ranked 3rd in pace.
But so they fly.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch.
And I think that makes they're just an average team, which is good for that conference. I think that pace puts some pressure on their opponents a little bit because it's so lightning fast. And that can it's almost like back when the first hurry up offenses happened in college football, right? It kind of gave them a little bit of an edge because it kind of turned, an average team into a little bit better because it was just something that other teams weren't used to seeing. Like I said, they play at a crazy pace.
Yeah, it's unreal. And then they've got 2 pretty good guards that they push that pace with, and that makes it fun to watch. I mean, they're not the greatest 3-point shooting team, but they shoot a lot of them, so they'll get some points that way. They rebound the ball pretty well. So they'll put up a lot of points, but I mean the biggest difference between these teams is Cal Poly's got one of the worst offenses in the NCAA right now. They don't rebound the ball well, they don't shoot well, they don't besides the free throw line, they're going to struggle to score against a fairly mediocre Portland State defense. They've got a decent defense, and they like to play at a slow pace because they know that if it gets in a track meet or where anything where you have to score a lot of points, they're going to just struggle. And I don't see them being able to slow Portland State down that much, or if at all. And they already struggle with turnovers, so that's not going to go well either. When you're turning the ball over to a fast team, all that does is speed them up. I think Portland State actually runs away with this one towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I think so too. Usually this is the part of the show where I'll say, for all of the other A grade plays, check out, again, they're already up on Patreon, etc. We are going to throw a couple more later on in the show because there are just so many of them. But of all of the A grade plays, you and I both love laying the short number there with Portland State, which takes us to the best B side. Jake, of all the B grade plays, this is one that the model hasn't really loved this team as much this year, as much as I think the rest of us have. And so we kind of expected it to be a C grade play, but it's really good quality in my opinion, and I think in yours too. 2 p.m. Central, Alabama at Houston. Houston laying 8.5 points there at home. Total of 133. Alabama 7-1, not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. But as we talked about before, this Houston team, we talk about, really Purdue's looked so good. UConn has looked amazing. Houston also, though, looking amazing and just taking care of business. Just an absolutely suffocating defense and a pretty dang good offense as well. Just not a team that you want any part of. And Alabama wants to play this at a little bit faster pace. But Houston, a team that can really grind you down, slow you down, but when it goes a little faster, have no problems doing that too, because the way their offense can score. Houston's just a total package here. Jake, why are you on them as the best B-side, laying 8.5 here against Alabama?
Like, first off, don't think Houston or anybody on this Houston team forgot how that game ended last year. So, they're out for revenge a little bit here. And I also think Alabama's getting a little bit too much respect for a couple of their bigger wins. Like, they beat North Carolina. It was 4 overtimes, but we're not exactly sure what North Carolina is right now.
Yeah.
And so
what happened in some of those overtimes, because that was just some ugly basketball. Like, you could tell the players were kind of tired towards the end of that one.
Yeah, everybody was gassed, and it was just I don't know. They're getting a little too much credit there. And then the same thing with Michigan State. They handled them a little bit better, but we're not exactly thinking Michigan State's a top tier team right now. So I'm not sure. And then they absolutely got murdered by UConn, and I feel like this game is going to go much the same way. Mm-hmm. The turnovers were the big bugaboo. It's always been with the pace that Nate Oates likes to play at, and that is the last thing you want to do is with Houston is turn the ball over, because they already force a ton, and if you just give them extra chances, they are just going to make your life miserable. Alabama's going to need an Iowa night from a couple nights ago to stay in this game. I think they're just going to have to hit every 3 ball, and they're not that great of a shooting team this year, but they still shoot a ton of them. And it's just not. And I think they're going to get outcoached because Sampson's a great coach, and Oates. I'm starting to question how good he is. I think he had a unique system there, kind of like you just talked about with the hurry-up offense. And once people have caught up, he hasn't changed it enough or hasn't adapted to the players he has. But I don't really see Alabama having a lot to stay in this game, especially late. I think maybe first half they're in it pretty good. Second half, I think Houston just bullies them and takes it away and ends up winning this by 15, 20.
Yeah, and it's not to take anything away from Alabama. Like you said with Nate Oates, good coach, good players, some good wins, right? Yeah. But all of those faded in comparison to Houston, where it's like just across the board great, and that's where there's just a difference here. You saw it against UConn, and again, I kind of think the same things that happened here. That Houston's going to run away with this one. And you talk about some of those wins, right? It's not that Michigan State's necessarily a bad team or North Carolina's a bad team. It's just some of those teams that are inconsistent. It's just harder to really know at this point, whereas we have a much more known quantity in Houston where we know what they can do. And so your best B-side, laying the 8.5 with Houston, which takes us to a bonus B-side. This is where usually I would look through things and give you a B-side. But Jake, you have one that you like enough. I'm going to let you take this segment as well. Again, there's just so many games right here on this Saturday. 4 p.m. Central, Butler laying 9.5 at California. We talked about this one as a recap game where I mentioned on the Discord once it was announced that Cal's best player was out with COVID to take Eastern Washington on the money line, and that paid off in the under, and that paid off for our Discord members here. We're thinking the same story for Cal. They're really rough. Butler's a pretty good team, so it's a road game. It's long travel spot, but Jake, you seem to think that the difference in caliber between these two teams is enough that Butler should still be able to win by double digits.
Yeah, like that travel, I don't think it matters. I don't think it really matters as much going from east to west as it does west to east, because typically the time zones don't mess with you as much. It's not like you're playing at an 8 a.m. spot where what you're used to.
Or exactly what I called out last Saturday in that Dartmouth, Cal State, whichever Bakersfield, I guess it was, game as one of the plays of the day, where it was that early travel spot, like all the way across the country, right?
Yeah, that like when you're typically using like waking up or whatever you're playing, but staying up late doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. They've got like this I said, this Butler's a good team. They've got a good group of guards. They're going to get deeper as the season goes on, as they get healthier, but they've got a really good big guy in Manny Bates who they can use to calm the game down, and he defends well, he rebounds well, and then they play off of him very well. He's very athletic. Harris, when I was at the Tennessee Tech game, Harris went off for 30, and everything he shot went in. They just got so many guards that can do that. It's going to be really hard for this winless California team to really stay in this game. I mean, they don't play offense very well, and their defense is decent, but the way they play is not going to help them here. There is a decent chance if their best player doesn't come back soon that they're going to be looking at like a very big number beside the O for their win list. Like they've lost to such teams as Southern and Eastern Washington and Texas State. It's not like they've just played a gauntlet of teams here. So they're just not a very good team right now. Mark Fox is never known as being a great coach there in Georgia. So I don't think they've got it. I think Butler will run away with this one.
Yeah, and Cal, like you said, without their best player, we don't know if he's going to come back. Supposedly, I found out he had COVID on Monday. I'm going to guess he's probably not going to play now, just based off of how long you test positive and how the protocols typically go for that. Might be back. It's typically like a week-ish that you're out. From everything we're seeing right now is questionable, but I have to assume he's not going to play. Cal's also got two other guys who would potentially be starters who haven't played a game this season because of injury, and that matters as well. They played on Wednesday with only 8 scholarship players, and I can't see all 3 of those guys magically coming back, right? Maybe they get one of them back, but they're really hurting right now, and they're probably not quite as bad as they are today, but they are today what they are today, right? And that's how we're playing them. So, there's I don't want to say optimism, but it's not this bad the rest of the season if they can get everybody healthy. But right now it is this bad. And so you are laying the 9.5 with Butler as another great B play, which takes us to the total of day. There are a lot of picks that the model likes here for the totals, a couple of overs and a lot of unders, where the discrepancies between what the model is saying and what the book's pricing is about 7 or 8 probably really strong total plays, another 7 or 8 that really you'd have your eye on. Tough decision here of all of them, but the one that I'm going to circle in on is might be a little bit of an under-the-radar game, but I think one that's going to cash comfortably for us. 7 p.m. Central, UMKC at Green Bay. The total of this one's 127, and I feel like the analysis of this one's pretty simple. Both these teams are terrible, or we're going to have a hard time putting the ball in the hoop, because that's what terrible teams tend to do. When you look at this one, you've got a team in UMKC that the model has actually overestimated how many points per game they would have. It's been pretty spot on with Green Bay. 2 teams that just don't go at a very fast pace. They're not North Texas, Bakersfield. They're not that slow, right? But they're both pretty slow. And, Green Bay's got a bad defense, but their offense is somehow worse. Missouri, Kansas City, not a great defense, but also not a great offense either. I just think this is going to be a low-scoring, ugly basketball game. Sideline predicts a score of 64-57, puts us at about 121 points. So comfortably under this total of 127.
Yeah, that feels right. If you somehow find yourself watching this game with everything else that's going on, this is a very teachable game. You can watch and be like, hey, you don't do that when you play. Oh, look see how that's broken. We don't do that. That's a very teachable game if you somehow find yourself watching this one.
Very well said. That was a way to spin that positively. I like what you did there. From a game that you probably shouldn't watch to a game that you probably should. Our must-see TV game of the day. I think the headliner across all the Saturday games, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, Arizona versus Indiana out in the desert. Arizona's a 1.5 point favorite. Total is 156. I mean, this should be a fantastic contest. You've got two absolutely top teams. Sideline says this is about a pick'em. And so, Jake, you're recommending people to take the 1.5 with Indiana, or I guess probably the equivalent on the money line, maybe like a plus 105 or even money type of play. What is your analysis for us on this one?
Yeah, this is one of the best matchups we're going to see all year. This is just incredible from everywhere. I mean, the battle between Bio, and TJD is going to be incredible. That's honestly worth the price of admission if you're making your way out there. IU's got the defense here, and I think that's
Arizona's got the offense. IU's got the defense. I mean, it should be such a fascinating matchup when we're on that side of the ball.
Yeah, it's that will be so fun to watch. But I think the defense is what makes the difference here and what keeps the game tight. IU's shown the ability. They've got some guards to like the way Xavier Johnson's playing and Huchefino, the way he showed up the last couple of games, playing very well. As long as they don't get caught up in this, which Arizona's the fastest team on earth at the moment. It's unreal the pace they play at, and
a decent defense. I don't want to make up the defense is bad, but it's barely above average. Really, it's just that offense is insanely good, and the pace they play at. The totals on this one are just through the roof. It's hard to predict how many points will be scored when they play because they can almost name their score with again how good their offense is and how fast they play.
Yeah. And kind of saw some of their holes in their team with the Utah game. And Mike Woodson, is a pretty good coach. He turned this IU program around in like a year and a half, really, not maybe even less time than that. And they played this great style of defense. As long as they don't get caught up in the track meet, and there's not foul troubles one way or the other. This game should stay within a point or two of each other. I don't see it really ever getting outside of maybe two possessions. This just should be the game, one of the top 5 games of the year. When we look back, I think will be this matchup. It'll have a lot to do with seeding in March because this will be the one game that both teams will point back to and say, "Hey, look at what we did."
On a neutral court.
Yeah. I'm always going to take the points in this matchup. I know the travel from Indiana to Vegas is a little farther, so you might be a little more of an Arizona home crowd if that sways you one way or the other. But I'm taking the points.
Yeah, it leans a little bit actually towards Indiana. It says it should be Indiana by a half a point, which is again very, very. It's just kind of like more of one of those. On average, they win like 51% of the time here. I think the key to this game really is going to be the fact that I feel pretty confident that Indiana can score in Arizona. Their offense is better than Arizona's defense. It's just not good enough. The pace Arizona plays, it kind of lends itself to maybe a little bit weaker efforts on the defense. I think IU's going to score. Right? There's a reason this total is 156. IU will score. Arizona will score too. The key to this game is that IU's defense is so good. It doesn't even need to stop. It doesn't need to stop Arizona. It just needs to slow them down a little bit, and they'll be able to win this game. I think they can do that. I think they're one of the few defenses in the country that can, other than obviously Arizona might have an off night shooting. Any team can. We saw it with the Iowa State game, right, where Iowa State goes 0 for 11 in the first half from 3. Iowa makes more threes in the first 6 minutes than they did the last game, the whole game, right? That sort of thing. You have those type of games, but in general, IU's going to get some points, and I think their defense is good enough just to slow Arizona down just a little bit, and that should get them the victory if they can do that. So that's why we recommend the money line or the plus 1.5 there in that one. Another must-see TV game, an A-grade pick from the model that I love here, Xavier -2 at Cincinnati. It's a road game, but part of the home court advantage, part of it's crowd, but that's actually a really small part. Part of it's the knowing what you're shooting at, but part of it's the travel. And the travel in this one, not bad at all, right? Across town rivalry. So no real travel effect there for Xavier. Sideline says it should be Xavier -4.5. I just think this number's really short. I think Cincinnati's solid. I think Xavier's really good. We saw Xavier last year be just the most confusing team at macro level, not micro level, macro level, because of how good they looked and how terrible they looked just for long stretches. But I think they've got things on track this year. I think they can go in there and get the win at Cincinnati in a situation where the model has gone 0-5, fading Xavier. So time to back them. and see if they can get us the win here with a short number. I love laying these short numbers like that because for the most part, you just got to win. You have to worry about when your incentives are aligned with the team's incentives. That's always nice. That's kind of what we have here, right? The only way we're sad is if Xavier wins by 1.
Yeah, I really like this Xavier. I think it opened up at 1.5 and was quickly turned to 2. And I would be surprised if it's not around 3 or 4 by the time it tips off.
Yep, absolutely. All right, that takes us to the overtime segment. Again, a ton of great A plays. Usually I would say, hey, go hit up the Google Sheet and check those out. Check out the Patreon for those benefits and still do that, but there's so many of them. We can give you out a few more here. 1 p.m. Central, UNC Asheville getting 12 points at Dayton. This Dayton team, I feel like this week we kind of gave them their last chance. It was kind of like hey, you've got to go on the road and do something here against Virginia Tech, a team that you'd be fighting with on the bubble come March potentially. And things looked great for till the first TV timeout, and then after that, it just went downhill. Sideline for this game says that Dayton should only be favored by 8.5. We're getting 12 points. Model is 6-1, fading Dayton. Jake, why is this a great investment for the people?
Yeah, look, this Dayton team has been struggling here recently. They've lost 4 of the last 6, and their 2 wins were against not great competition, and one of those was only by 8. I think the folks took Kim Palm's number right here and just stuck it out there and hope you weren't paying attention. The slowness of Dayton really harms them in the way they are able to win games and win them by big numbers. And this UNC Asheville team shoots the 3 ball very, very well, ranking in the top 10. They also are pretty high up there in effective field goal percentage. So they work their offense, they find good shots, and they're pretty good at it. And Dayton's defense isn't anything superstar special to really throw them off of it. With the way Dayton plays and how UNC Asheville can shoot the ball, I don't see a way this turns into a blowout. I think this game stays about 10 points, and probably really in the control of Dayton the whole game, but it just points-wise, it's not going to really run away from them.
Yeah, taking a page out of my playbook here. Y'all know I love doing that. Looking at a situation where they just hung the Ken Palm number. He makes some great numbers, pretty close for the most part, but just where it's like you said, they're just like they got too many games to just kind of hang that number. I think he makes it about 11.5. This just is way too high. I agree with you completely. The point I will add to it is UNC Asheville's weakest thing is their defense, and they're going to lose some games by double digits. When they are, it's going to be a team that plays faster, takes advantage of that. Dayton plays so slow. I just don't think they're built to run away from a team like Asheville, who can be run away from. But I think Dayton, with the pace they play at, I think they're up comfortably 6-8 for most of the second half. They don't really have an incentive to run away with it. I'm not sure they can run away with it. Asheville should be able to score enough to hang in there. And yeah, again, sideline says 8.5. I think in that ballpark is a whole lot closer than 12. So I'm with you. Grabbing 12 points, I think, is a fantastic investment. I'll give you one more here for our overtime segment. Northwestern State laying 4.5 at home against UL Monroe. Probably, again, another game that might fly under your radar here at 3:30 Central. Bottom line to me on this one, the model has backed Northwestern State every single game this year to a tune of a 7-1 record. And I don't really see any reason why we should be getting off of that right here. It's overestimated UL Monroe and underestimated Northwestern State. Even as high as we've been on Northwestern State, we have still underestimated them. And so if that trend continues to hold, the model says this should be 8.2. Maybe it actually should be 9 or 10 or 11. I'm not really sure. But at home, I think Northwestern State can run away with this one. I just think they're a much improved team here from recent years. I just think you got the better team at home laying a short number. I think this is horribly mispriced. I have no idea why it's 4.5. The Ken Palm number on this one is somewhere around 3.5 though, 4. So it's that same sort of thing, but this is one I think is going to get bet up. So the sooner you can get on this one, in my opinion, the better.
Yeah, this is unbelievable to get this short of a number with this team at home. It's very, very easy to play this one.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, that's the games we're going to cover for your Saturday. Jake, any parting words?
No, I'm so excited to sit on my couch and not move on Saturday. I'm so ready for this.
First Saturday with only one college football game to take another screen away from. So it's a little bit of a different story. Usually I've been watching a little bit of the basketball on Saturday, but this first one I'll really get to dive in all day without interruption because there's no football. There's only just one game from football to distract me.
Yeah, and for the college football, you really just have to check on it once every 10 minutes to see if somebody is threatening to score, and then just yeah, okay.
There's a lot of people. The pageantry of that game, right, is fun to watch.
Yeah, you watch the opening and then
the stories and all, the stuff like that. But the Army Navy game is always something special. But like you said, it may not be the most entertaining game from a point standpoint. If you missed our breakdown of that, check out the college football episode from last week. We actually broke down and made a pick on that one. So check that out if you haven't yet. But otherwise, thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel jumped right into your feed. We'll be back again Monday with more sports betting content. But until then, as always, best of luck, and remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.